Welcome back with a smiling face. Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. The Orphaned Secrets. Episode 10. Chapter 58. Griffin's POV. The entire pack was still reeling from the horrendous incident that happened at dinnertime. The elderly were on the verge of having heart attacks, and the younger pups would have nightmares for the rest of their fragile lives. After the initial shock, Richard quickly regained his composure and called Jasper. It was pretty disturbing to find out they had just gone through the exact same thing. Xandra and Alexa were worried about Saren, but, according to Jasper, Saren handled it fairly well. With Richard was occupied on the phone, I started doing damage control with the help of the other ranked members, Trent and some of the guards. Unlike Jasper's pack, who only had 3 victims, we had 4, and that's on top of Lorelei's father. We had no idea that banished pack members were going to Kellen Patterson for safe haven, and we were completely blindsided by the fact that Thornton betrayed the entire pack by becoming Kellen's personal Golden Moon mole. It did make sense, now, since no one remembered seeing him at the cancelled ceremony a few months ago. Unfortunately, because of his ties to Patterson, I couldn't help but question Lorelei and the rest of her family's loyalty to the pack. Thornton's reasoning for his betrayal was obvious. He was angry at us because Lorelei was humiliated by Saren, and Damon was punished for attacking Saren when his goal was actually Alexa. I could understand his anger towards us and Blue Lake, but to go about it this way was a little dramatic in my personal opinion. Whatever he did wrong to Patterson got him the death sentence, and it was his own fault. Richard and I agreed that he, and the others, would not be buried on pack grounds. It was my duty to inform Lorelei and her family of this decision. We sent for them to come to my office, which was where I waited for their arrival, with Xandra by my side, to discuss it. You would think that they would be in more of a hurry to find out what's going to happen to their father's remains, Xandra said as she tapped her foot impatiently, her face getting more annoyed by the second. Xandra, I know you don't have a good history with Lorelei, but can you try to, at least, be a little sympathetic? She just lost her father, I gently pointed out as I brought her onto my lap to help calm her down. Be nice? Are you serious? I may be young and new to this Luna thing, but I am by no means a. She paused a second and thought. What is that word? She grunted in frustration. Xandra was still trying to expand her vocabulary, and it was adorable to see her struggle a little bit. Pull over. It's push over, I corrected her while trying to keep a straight face. Yeah, that. A pushover. I'm not a pushover, Griffin. She tried to take you from me and insulted me when all I did was try to be nice and respectful towards her. She even had the nerve to slap me. And, on top of that, her brother wanted to do the unthinkable to Alexa. As if that wasn't enough, their dad betrayed us by siding with the man that has ruined more lives than one can possibly count. Why Spot should I be nice? She shouted and crossed her arms before full-on pouting. I let out a defeated sigh and shook my head at her immaturity. Xandra was only 18, I had to remember that, and she still had a lot to learn when it came to being Luna. I would have to call Saren and ask her to talk to Xandra once things have calmed down. Baby, I get that, but you're the Luna of this pack. You need to learn to rise above petty grudges and be the bigger person. Prove to Lorelei why you're the Luna. Why the moon goddess, your mother, gave you to me, and not her, I said as I stroked her cheek to calm the raging storm in her beautiful soul. You're too loving to have this much hate inside of you. I know your feelings are just hurt, and you're upset for Alexa. But, if Alexa can let it go, then you should too. Whoever said anything about Alexa letting it go? She hates that family as much as I do. But she doesn't voice it out loud the way you do. She dropped her arms and wrinkled her nose before rolling her eyes at me. Xandra, I get it, you're young, and you've lived your entire life very differently from the rest of us. But holding grudges like this is toxic, and it can come back to bite you later. Let it go. Don't stoop to Lorelai's level. To Thornton's level. To Kellen's level, I concluded and gave her a strict look, signaling that we were done talking about this. She looked at me and glared, but I could see that I had gotten through to her. Ugh, I hate you sometimes, she whined. I know, baby, I know. But you love me more than you hate me, I teased and tightly wrapped my arms around her as she sat in my lap. She hugged me back, holding onto my arms. She tried to turn to face me, instead, she making me harden almost instantly. Xandra, if you do that again, I'm going to bend you over my desk and have my way with you. But you told me no X for 48 hours. It's been 72 hours, darling. We're way past the 48-hour mark, I growled in her ear, making her giggle. I was about to say, Lorelai and her family, but just as I stood with Xandra in my arms, there was a knock on the door. I grumbled. Oh, saved by the knock, she taunted and patted my C.Hest for me to put her down. I reluctantly did so when there came another knock, only this time it was more impatiently and loud. Xandra and I quickly straightened our clothes. Come in. I shouted from my desk, I safely hidden beneath it. The door opened, and Thornton's wife, Torrance, came into the office first, followed by Damon and then Lorelai. Torrance, Damon, Lorelai, please, have a seat, I greeted them, pointing at the two guest chairs in front of my desk. Torrance and Lorelai sat in the chairs while Damon stood behind them. I didn't miss the hateful glare Lorelai shot at Xandra, but I was going to let it slide, this time, because of their recent loss. You wanted to see us, Cha. I mean, Alpha, Torrance addressed me, quickly correcting herself. Yes. First off, I want to give you my deepest condolences on the loss of your mate. I can't even begin to imagine the amount of pain you are in. Secondly, I need to inform you all about the decision Richard and I made when it comes to what to do with his remains. What do you mean by what you're going to do with his remains? Damon exclaimed. He should be buried like anyone else in the pack would be. I hear you, Damon. But, unfortunately, in light of what he has done, the decision has been made that he will not be buried on pack grounds and will be buried along with the 4 banished pack members. He will be treated as a rogue for his betrayal and harboring a wanted fugitive Kellen Patterson. You have no proof that my mate was involved with that tyrant. Torrance screamed and slammed her hands on my desk, immediately rising to her feet. Mom is right. What proof do you have that it was my dad who was the mole? Lorelai shouted at me, then immediately turned her gaze to Xandra. You. This is your doing, she pointed her finger at Xandra. Xandra stepped back at the sudden attack. I didn't do anything, Lorelai. Your father is the one who betrayed this pack. All because of you and your stupid brother. Oh, you want to play the blame game, do you? None of this would have happened had you and your street Trkl Thornwood sister never came to this pack. You don't belong here. Lorelai screamed in Xandra's face. Lorelai. I roared and slammed my fists on my desk, cracking it in half, and my eyes turned black with rage. Havoc was on the verge of taking over, seeing the blatant disrespect towards Xandra. She immediately cowered and started to tremble. You will watch how you speak to your Luna. Or you can join your backstabbing father in hell. I seethed. Do you understand me? Yes, she squeaked. I didn't hear you. Yes, Alpha, she said louder. Her mother pulled her arm and made her sit back down. I was still seething, and it was taking a lot of willpower to keep Havoc at bay. He wanted to kill Lorelei for what she said to Xandra. It was just her luck that Brent wasn't here to hear her say what she said about Alexa. Griffin, Xandra called out to me. I snapped my head towards her in anger, but she didn't even flinch. Come here, she instructed as she pulled me to her. I instinctively buried my face into the crook of her neck and inhaled deeply. Her scent calmed me in seconds, and Havoc was finally putting down his hackles. After about a minute or so, I was finally ready to continue. I turned to Lorelei and glared at her. She couldn't meet my eye, and, for once, I was grateful not having to look at her face. When I sat down, I took a deep breath to calm myself once more. Torrance, you asked for proof. She nodded her head. Okay. Tell me, the night of my alpha ceremony, where was Thornton? She looked at me, bewildered for a moment, and blinked incredulously before responding. I don't know, she responded. Where were you two? I interrogated Damon and Lorelei. In the dungeons. After all, Brent put me inside there, Damon answered. That's beta Brent to you, I snapped back at him. I turned my attention to Lorelei. Well, I was at home. You can ask Trent. He saw me going home right before the ceremony was supposed to start. I was not about to watch you take the Alpha TLE and then give the Luna position to this. She stopped mid-sentence when I snarled at her. To Xandra, she corrected herself. I quickly mind-linked Trent, and asked him to verify Lorelei's alibi, which he did. He confirmed that she went home about 30 minutes before the ceremony was supposed to start. He had even asked her why she wasn't going to attend, and she gave him the same answer she just gave me. Okay, your alibi checks out, I told her. She huffed and crossed her arms, giving me some more attitude. I shook it off as I didn't feel like dealing with her right now. Torrance, I saw you in the backyard with everyone, so I knew where you were. The only person in your family unaccounted for is Thornton. And don't even think about trying to blame it on the banished pack members, they were banished long before Xandra and Alexa even came here. Everyone else in the pack has been accounted for that evening, except for your mate. Torrance gulped, not knowing how to respond. What's the matter? Cat got your tongue. You were so certain that your mate couldn't have possibly sided with Kellen Patterson, yet you have no idea of his whereabouts that night. As a matter of fact, no one does. So, as it stands, your mate was the mole that betrayed this pack. No, Alpha, he wouldn't. He couldn't. Why would he risk his life for that maniac? Torrance questioned. Simple, he wanted to get back at us and the Blue Lake Pack for punishing Damon and humiliating Lorelei. He was their father, after all, I replied. But Thornton and I agreed that Damon deserved his punishment. And that Lorelei needed to get over her obsession with you. Mom! Damon and Lorelei exclaimed in unison. Don't mom me, she spat at them. Lorelei, I told you that Griffin was not going to be your mate, even after the whole situation with Killian's mother. Yet, you refused to listen to reason. Your obsession with him was borderline psychotic. Then you had the nerve to slap the Luna here, all because she came from Blue Lake, she scolded her. And you, she pointed at Damon. You tried to ape the beta's mate. Only you were too stupid to know which room she was actually in, and you ended up assaulting the Luna of another pack. The Blue Lake Luna to be exact. With her young son in the bed with her, at that. You deserved your punishment and then some. I raised you both to be better than that. Goddess, where in the hell did your father and I go wrong with you? She then laughed at herself. I don't even know why I'm questioning this. Your father was obviously just as sick as the two of you. I mean, he went and betrayed this entire pack and me, his mate, his wife, all because he felt that you were wronged when, in reality, you two were the ones who royally inged up, she shouted at them. How the hell you two were born from my womb, I will never understand. Lorelei and Damon were both utterly speechless, hearing their own mother calling them inged up. They looked at each other and then to the floor because they didn't know how to respond to anything. There was an awkward silence in the room, so I cleared my throat and broke it. Torrance, as I said earlier, due to his crimes, Thornton will be buried as a rogue. You have my deepest sympathies, but that is what has been decided, I explained to her sternly while trying to be kind at the same time. Xandra was looking at Torrance, and she kept moving her head back and forth, almost as if she were questioning if Torrance really understood what I was telling her. For a split second, Xandra's eyes turned stark white, and it seemed that only I caught it before they returned to their usual ocean blue. She looked at me, her eyes full of worry. Her eyes aired to Damon and then back to me, signaling me to get them to leave. I understand, Alpha. He deserves what he gets for what he has done. For the first time ever, I am Cale Thornwood aimed to have been his mate. I am Cale Thornwood aimed to be their mother, she sobbed. That is all. You are all free to leave, I ordered them. Torrance didn't miss a beat and stood to her feet before running out of my office. Damon and Lorelei looked at her retreating figure and then back at me and Xandra. Yes? Is there something else you two need? I asked them, annoyed that they hadn't left yet. Without saying a word, they both turned their heels and walked towards the door of my office to leave. Wait! Xandra called out to them. She ran from behind my desk directly to Lorelei and sized her up. It was a little funny to see, considering that Xandra was, at least, 5 inches shorter than her. Before you go, I have something for you, Xandra said. Lorelei looked at her confused but was caught off by the sudden slap across her face. Xandra! I shouted at her. She ignored me and as soon as Lorelei turned to face her, she was slapped again, but, this time, her head pped in the opposite direction. I couldn't even react before Xandra grabbed her by the chin. That first slap was for the time you slapped me when I first got here. The second one was for you calling my sister Street Tr Cale Thornwood. If you ever insult my sister again, I'll do more than just slap you, she gritted her teeth and then shoved Lorelei's face away from her. Lorelei, on the other hand, was too shocked to say anything. And you? She directed towards Damon. She walked up to him and kneed him in the balls, making me gr0an in pain for him. I yelled. If you ever come near my sisters or me again, I'm going to turn those grapes into raisins. You, gr0aned as he keeled over from the pain. No, I'm not a BH. I'm a survivor, and I will be damned if you two try to ruin the life that I have now been blessed with. Unlike the two of you, my sister and I weren't fortunate enough to have 2 loving parents that would bend over backwards at our every whim. No, we were both born in cages and treated like animals. Saren lost her entire life at the age of 10 because of Kellen. Kellen kidnapped me and my sister from our home and gave us to Marvin to be trafficked. And your father was stupid enough to side with him, look where that got him. All because the two of you were so ungrateful for what you already had, you tried to take from other people who literally had nothing their entire lives. Your dad deserved his death and more. Stop being greedy, ungrateful pricks, and be happy with what you have. There are literally millions of people with far less. Xandra turned her heel before they could say anything and came back to me. I didn't know whether to be angry that she assaulted two pack members or turned on by the way she handled them and stood up for herself and others. You're going topa-y for that, you slut, Lorelei growled. Stop making empty threats, Lorelei. We both know that your biggest fear in life is becoming a rogue, I sneered at her. So, unless you want to end up on the streets and become Tr. Cale Thornwood yourself, you and your pathetic excuse of a brother need to get Spot out of my office. Tears welled up in her eyes as she ran out with Damon hot on her tail. After they were long gone, I turned back to Xandra, who had an unknown expression on her face. Xandra, what did you see? I finally asked her. Damon. What about him? He's going to confront Brent. When? I asked. She looked at the clock. Right now. Chapter 59. Brent's POV. What happened today was just plain foul. Nobody was expecting dead bodies to fall from the sky right as dinner was about to start. I found it in me to push past the initial horror, at least, enough to help Griffin get a handle on the situation. After we cleared the dining room, Alexa, Mav Kellunk, Jay, and I were waiting for Griffin and Xandra in the recreation area on the first floor of the pack house. Most of the pack members had gone to their respective homes either due to loss of appetite or to make their own dinner where corpses weren't being served. I saw that and his family marching up the stairs earlier since Griffin and Xandra wanted to speak with them regarding Thornton's remains. I already knew the outcome of the decision. Griffin and Richard had asked for Mav Kellunk's and my opinions on the matter. I never got over the SHT that Damon tried to pull when Alexa and Xandra first came to the pack house. I honestly wished that Richard wasn't so soft and banished him right when it happened. But, apparently, 3 days without food or water in the dungeons and kicking by Saren was enough punishment in his eyes. I didn't agree and thought I should have a say in the matter since Alexa was his actual target, but Richard, Griffin, and Saren all told me to let it go since he didn't get his hands on Alexa. Jasper wanted to rip his head off, but even then, Saren convinced him not to. Mav Kellunk brought up the subject of their family by asking us, I wonder what their reaction will be when they find out their dad is going to be buried like a rogue. Pissed off, I'm sure, but he deserves it. He straight up betrayed everyone. Why should he get to be buried like a loyal pack member when he was anything but loyal? I argued. I may not have known him, but I don't think treating his family like that is the right thing to do, Jay mentioned timidly. We all looked at her in shock. She immediately cowered behind Mav. Hey, it's okay, darlin'. They're not going to bite, Mav comforted her and brought her out from behind him. Yeah, sorry about that, Jay. I'm just surprised you're actually giving us your input, I reassured her with a smile. Is that not allowed? What? No, of course, it is. You're one of us, well, hopefully, you will be, I responded and looked between her and Mav. It's a work in progress, Mav replied cautiously. Jay gave a curt smile and nodded. Well, if you want my opinion, Thornton should be burned to Cale Thornwoods and buried with the dirt because that's what he is. Alexa declared, crossing her arms. He had the nerve to be a mole in this pack and even tried to have everyone killed. And not just us. Jasper, Sam, and all of the other alphas, she continued while huffing and puffing. Hey, okay, calm down, babe. He's dead. Whatever he did or didn't do doesn't matter anymore. He's dead. Is that seriously all you guys ever do? Someone shouted at us. We all looked up at the door and saw Damon and Lorelei standing there. What did you just say? Mav Kellenk asked, clearly annoyed. Some leaders of the pack you are, sitting around gossiping and talking Kale Thornwood about pack members. Damon retorted. You better watch your mouth, Damon. How dare you speak to us like that? I seethed. Like it or not, we're the ranked members of this pack now, and you better start learning to hold your tongue. Or what? Do you actually think I'm afraid of you? You're nothing but a lousy Omega newborn. You only got the position of Beta because of a gratuitous handover. You're not even pure. You're nothing but a street rat brought in off the streets by Richard. Street rat to go with street Kale Thornwood, Lorelei added, directing her insult to Alexa. What spot has your panties all up in Awood? Mav Kellenk growled. The fact that our pack is now doomed because that senile, old man Richard and those other old farts decided to hand the pack over to a bunch worthless clowns like you guys. Damon taunted. What the hell was his problem? Did he have 80th wish, coming in here and being a complete and utter J.irk to all of us? What spot is your problem, seriously? You're the ones that inged up, and yet, you're blaming us for your stupid decisions. For your dad's stupid decisions. Alexa snapped at them. How about growing and taking responsibility for your own actions, hey? Isn't that what being a responsible adult is supposed to mean? That's assuming that they've ever learned to be responsible. But, seeing how their dad reacted to them being punished a few months ago, it appears that the apple doesn't fall from the tree. No wonder they're such ups, Mav Kellenk sneered. Don't talk about my father. Damon growled. Whose spot do you think you're growling at, pup? Mav Kellenk shot back. With Mav Kellenk being closer to his 30s, he was older than every single one of us in this room. Although everyone could see Damon flinch, he still wouldn't back down. Instead of responding to Mav Kellenk, he geared his eyes towards me. What spot are you staring at? I challenged him. You think you're so high and mighty since Beta Everett gave you his position, but newsflow Kale Thornwood, noob, you don't deserve to be Beta. You're not meant to be one of us, let alone to lead us. You should have died along with all of those other pathetic humans when you were at Blood Moon. My eyes turned black almost instantly the moment I heard him bring up what happened back then. Everyone in the pack was aware that mentioning my past could stir up PTSD for me, so it was forbidden for anyone to speak about it, and that included Damon. But I guess for him, his jealousy and hatred towards me made him think he was an exception to the rule. Damon! Someone roared at him, shaking the entire room. Damon stood straight up in horror. It wasn't Griffin. No, it was far, far worse. It was Everett and Richard. You obviously didn't learn your lesson the first time around. Richard scolded him, standing directly in front of him and Lorelei. Damon didn't say anything and neither did Lorelei. Damon's eyes darted from side to side as if he was contemplating how to respond. I watched as he squared his shoulders, and at first, we all thought he would give some kind of fake apology, but he surprised us all when he did the complete opposite. Learn my lesson? Did you think that throwing me in the dungeons was supposed to scare me into submission? Damon sneered at Richard. Richard was slightly taken aback by Damon's clear insubordination. Even Lorelei looked shocked, at first, but she soon recovered and joined her brother on the stupid train. My brother is right. We have no reason to fear you or Everett anymore. You have no rank in this pack, she insisted. Rank obviously holds no importance to either one of you, seeing as how you two clearly disrespect those that do have rank over you." Everett shouted at her. "What the hell is going on in here?" Griffin shouted from the door with Xandra by his side. Xandra rushed over to Alexa. "Are you okay?" she checked on her sister. Alexa nodded, and Xandra immediately snapped her head towards Damon and Lorelai. "You two seriously don't know when to quit?" "Quit? Did you honestly think you scared me just because you slapped me twice and kicked my brother in the balls?" Lorelai retorted. "And hearing your mother call you two ups obviously held no importance either." Griffin sneered at the two of them as he joined Xandra. "I took my place with Alexa, and Mavkelunk and Jay came up next to us." "Oh, sizing us up, are we?" Damon taunted. "Do you think I'm afraid of any of you?" "Damon, you better shut that hole in your face while you're still ahead," Everett bellowed. "Shut Spot up, old man. You have no authority." "We do," I shouted at him. "And I would rather eat Kale Thornwood than listen to or obey an ignominious newborn." "Oh, I'll make you eat Kale Thornwood all right," I threatened as I tried to stomp towards him but was stopped by Alexa. I turned around to face her and she just shook her head. "Don't stoop to his level. He's just trying to provoke you," she whispered to me. "What? You have to get your permission to stand up for yourself." Lorelai spat. Xandra and I both snarled at her. "Is that all that you know how to do? Insult people? Seriously? Now I know why the moon goddess never gave you a mate. She didn't want to make some poor deal with you overly annoying and immature," Alexa mocked her. "What did you just say?" Lorelai screamed. "You heard me, you crazy, narcissistic cunt!" Alexa shouted. "Did I say that right?" she quickly asked me. "Yes." "Why you little..." Lorelai ran towards Alexa, but Xandra jumped in front of her and took the brunt of the force from Lorelai. "Xandra!" Griffin and Alexa both called out. As those two were in their tussle, Mavkelunk called out to me, "Brent! Look out!" I turned around to see Damon lunging for me. He landed on me, but I was able to break through part of his attack as I held onto him. "You're weak!" Damon shouted at me as he punched me once, twice, and then stomped on my abdomen. The punches didn't faze me, but the stomp to the abs did some damage. "Get off of her!" Alexa screamed. Her screaming got my attention, and I lifted my head to see her on top of Lorelai's back pulling her hair and all three girls screaming and cursing. Griffin, Mavkelunk, and Jay were just standing back, staring at the whole debacle. My slight distraction to check on the girls allowed Damon to kick me while I was down. I rolled to my side and was slowly losing my patience with him. If he didn't stop while he was ahead, I was going to rip his mothering head off, and his death would be completely justified, given that he just attacked me, the beta of the pack. He stomped up to me and was about to kick me again, but I grabbed his ankle and pulled his leg from underneath him, which made him land hard on his back. I pulled him towards me and punched him in the left orbital bone. I heard a small crunch, and I was quite sure that I just broke his face. But he pushed past the pain, got to his feet as I did, and he charged at me to tackle me. In a split second, he suddenly went flying across the room with Lorelai on top of him, who had a fresh bite mark on her right shoulder. I turned around to see a wolf standing in place of where Alexa was. I was so stunned at how beautiful Brooklyn was. Even Chaos completely forgot about our fight with Damon as he was practically drooling in the back of my mind. I was always under the impression that Brooklyn would be a white wolf, like Atlanta, but I was wrong. Completely and totally wrong. Brooklyn was a silver wolf. Not grey but silver. And I mean silver. Her coat shined like pure titanium, and her fur didn't appear soft. My goddess, Richard and Everett both gasped. Whoa, Griffin gawked. Mav Kellogg and Jay were just gaping at the sight before them. As beautiful and astonishing as she was, Brooklyn was pissed off. Her hackles were straight up, and they came to a sharp point like spikes. What spot? Damon cried out as he pushed Lorelei off. That bit me. Lorelei shrieked as she looked at her shoulder. She attacked me. The female beta attacked me. Lorelei screamed and cried at the top of her lungs. Pack members started to rush into the recreation room, and it finally dawned on us what she was doing. She's not even a normal wolf. Look at her. She's a freak, she pointed and shouted as she stood to her feet. Are you serious? Are you seriously going to stand there and make accusations against Alexa when you attacked her first? Griffin shouted. Of course the alpha would side with her. The Luna is the beta's sister. He's being biased. How is that fair? Lorelei cried out. And look what Beta Brent did to me. Damon suddenly exclaimed, gaining the spectators' attention. He punched me so hard across the face for my father's crimes and broke my orbital socket. I looked back at Griffin and the others, and we were all so confused. Did they honestly think that they would get away with fabricating lies like this? Why does the beta female's wolf look like that? A pack member questioned. Yeah, her fur looks like it's metal, someone else interjected. I could see Brooklyn's eyes gaze at them with confusion. It was obvious that their comments and questions were starting to make her lose confidence in herself. Hey, don't do that. Don't let their commentaries affect you, baby. You're beautiful. You're so different and in the best way possible. But they're talking bad about us. No, they're not. They're simply curious because you're unique. Just like Atlanta is. According to Richard, snow white wolves are rare, and by the looks of it, the same goes for Brooklyn. I could see her eyes soften a bit. I linked her once more to let her know that it would be best to shift back so that the pack members could see she meant no harm, and that Lorelei was lying out of her teeth. As soon as she did, I grabbed a blanket off one of the bean bags in the room and had her cover up. Alpha, is it true? Did the betas attack them? A pack member asked Richard. Griffin was slightly caught off guard, seeing that pack members weren't asking him even though he was the current alpha. But before Richard could even say anything, Alexa interjected. No, it's not, she said confidently. No one was asking you, monster. Lorelei shouted. Alexa turned her gaze to her, her eyes now black as night. You sniveling coward. Did you and your brother honestly think that you could come in here, insult us, disrespect us, attack us, and then lie your way out of it? Alexa hurled back at her. You should have been banished the day you slapped my sister. But instead, we showed you leniency because we were new, and we didn't want trouble. Not anymore. I'm sick of your bullsh, Lorelei, and it's time that you and your brother pay for your crimes. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure, I slapped Xandra when she first got here, but she deserved it. She took my mate from me. Lorelei claimed. Not this again. Griffin was supposed to be my mate. Everyone in this pack knew Griffin was going to take me as his chosen. But then you and your sister came and ruined it all. I should be the Luna, she screamed like a banshee. I just wanted to speak to you to try and get you to persuade Xandra to give Griffin back to me, but instead of listening to reason, you attacked me by shifting into your crazy-looking wolf, she insisted and looked at everyone in the room with crocodile tears. You could see that some of the pack members thought she was insane, but a few actually did start to believe her. You have no idea who you're messing with, Lorelei. Xandra shouted at her. See? Even the Luna is threatening me now. Someone go find this B*HS mother, Alexa snarled through her teeth. May I ask why? A pack member asked, raising their hand. Tell her that both of her kids are going to die today. The crowd gasped. You all heard that right? The beta female just threatened to murder us. Damon exclaimed. You misunderstand. I'm not going to kill you myself. The pack members here will vote for you two to be executed or banished. Either way, you're done for. Alexa responded. Because they're going to see with their own eyes exactly how enged up the two of you really are. What? Lorelei sneered. Without saying another word. Alexa's eyes turned stark white and her hair started to change colors too. OSH.T. Chapter 60. Griffin's POV. Things escalated quickly after Alexa Unnelkale Thornwooded her power on the unsuspecting pack members, causing them to suddenly disappear. I was glad I knew what was coming since I've witnessed this phenomenon before. In the split second that it took for her powers to take effect, I saw Lorelei and Damon trying to sneak away while everyone was distracted. I swiftly mind-linked Trent and another guard to stand by the door to make sure they didn't leave. Move, Trent! Damon shouted. Trent stared at him, unwavering, and crossed his arms. I said, move. No. What? Alpha's orders. You and your sister aren't allowed to leave this room. And I'm not even going to ask about what happened to the dozen or so pack members I saw come in here, Trent announced as he glanced over at me. I just shook my head. Where did they go? Jay asked Mav Kellunk, tugging on his arm. I have no clue, he responded and then looked at Brent and me. We'll explain when they get back. It's a long story, Brent replied. Mav Kellunk and Jay left it at that and didn't ask any more questions. You can't keep us in here. You're holding against our right. Lorelei screamed. Actually, we're not. You attacked us, and how should I put this? The pack members are on a short journey to find out the truth, I told her. Where did they go anyway? What did that freak do to them? She shouted, pointing at Alexa. I swear to the moon goddess, if you call Alexa a freak one more time, I'm going to up your already inged up face. Even the monster of Frankenstein will be better looking than you. Brent snarled at her. Threatening to harm a pack member is against pack laws. Damon asserted. Only if it's not warranted, Richard specified. But the two of you have done more than enough to warrant 100 threats from them, as well as from Everett and myself. So unless you want to keep adding to your sentences, I suggest you two keep quiet. As the human Miranda warning states, you have the right to remain silent. Richard, I think you've grown soft in your old age, Everett joked with him. You have no room to talk, you're older than me, Richard snarked back. By a month. Still older. They kept bickering back and forth when, suddenly, one by one, pack members began to reappear in the rec room out of thin air. What the hell? Damon and Lorelei shouted in unison. As each of the pack members started to regain their composure, they would look over at Alexa, who was now back to normal. Some were a mixture of scared and shocked, while others seemed impressed and elated. But one thing they all had in common was that they believed what they saw with their own eyes, and all snapped their heads towards Damon and Lorelei. What? Lorelei scowled, obviously uncomfortable being stared at in this manner. Some of the pack members glared hard and even growled at her. Why are you growling at me? You're acting as if I did something wrong. That's because you did, one of the older female pack members criticized her. I didn't do anything. We saw it with our own eyes, another argued back. Yet, whatever the beta female did, it allowed us to see what exactly you and the brother did to the ranked members. You're disgusting and vile. To think, I almost felt sorry for you and your stupid lies about being the chosen mate to Alpha Griffin. Your brother is even worse. I saw what he did to the Blue Lake Luna and what she did in retaliation. You should have been banished for your crimes, Damon, not locked up. You're lower than the scum on the bottom of my shoe, an older male spat at him. And I mean, literally spat. The rest of the pack members chimed in and started to talk SHT to Lorelai and Damon, accusing them of committing crimes that warranted death, such as attacking the beta female and fighting with the Luna. Lies. They're all lies. Lorelai shrieked as two of the females grabbed her by the hair and pulled her down to her knees. Male pack members jumped on Damon and also forced him to kneel. Get off of me! Unhand me, you fools! Damon screamed. What's happening in here? Someone screeched. We all looked towards the door, and Torrance was standing there, staring at the scene in front of her. Why are my children being apprehended by pack members? Torrance, you kids are lower than filth, and they have to pay for their crimes, someone told her. What did you two do now? She screamed at them. She looked over at me and the others, and then she saw Richard and Everett as well. What did they do? Please, tell me. Well, where to start? Mav Kellank responded. Let's see, they insulted us, cursed at us, said that we're undeserving of our ranks, and called Richard and Everett here old farts. He counted off their crimes while putting up a corresponding finger on his hand. What? She bellowed and looked down at her children. Oh, let's not forget, Lorelai lunged at Alexa but ended up fighting with Xandra. Then she lied to everyone, saying that Alexa and Xandra attacked her, Brent added. Right, and there's also the fact that Damon lunged at you and landed some hits on you a few times. But the worst part was that he kicked you while you were down and also lied about it, Mav Kellank concluded. Is that everything? Brent asked sarcastically. I think so, Mav Kellank answered. Smarta-dotsies, I thought to myself. Torrance closed her eyes as she took in all of the information presented to her. After a minute or so, she opened her eyes, and they were black with rage. She was silent for a minute, but she suddenly turned around and smacked both Damon and Lorelai across the face, leaving claw marks on their cheeks. MMO mom. Lorelai stammered as she held her cheek and blood seeped through her fingers. Damon was shocked and stayed frozen in his spot, looking at the floor as his face bled. You attacked the ranked members? Are you out of your minds? She roared at them. I didn't raise you two to be this stupid, this immature, this irresponsible, this evil. Dad always told us to fight for what we believed in. Damon shouted at her. He always told me to fight for what I want. Lorelai cried out as well while still holding her cheek. Your father? Are you seriously still going on about what he told you? He's dead because of his own stupid decisions, she spat. I shouldn't even be surprised that you two are just as stupid as he was, she ridiculed them. You're our mother, you're supposed to be on our side, Lorelai muttered. No, Lorelai, that's not how parenting works. Parenting is making sure you raise your children to be decent and kind people. Parenting is about putting your kids on the right path in life so that they know right from wrong. Being a parent is about pushing your kids to do what they're passionate about without having to step all over others to be successful. There is no such thing as taking sides when you're a parent. Being a parent means not always making your kids happy. If your kid f***ks up, like the two of you have, then it's the parent's job to discipline them before someone else does, before someone else kills them for doing something stupid. I did all of the above, and yet it seems that your father undermined my parenting, and he went about it the complete opposite. Now, I'm not surprised that he's dead. He got himself killed, regardless of whether Patterson killed him. You should be dying too. Damon yelled at her. Your mate is dead, and yet, you're just peachy. You're perfectly fine. How is that possible? Want to know why? Because your father had broken our bond long before he betrayed this pack. He betrayed me one too many times as it is, but I forgave him for the sake of you two. Because I didn't want to raise you two in a broken family. What are you talking about? Lorelei shouted. Your father broke our bond the day he cheated on me with a human. The entire room gasped. And I mean, the entire room. The pack members, the girls, us guys, and even Trent and the guard who were standing by at the door. Torrance. Richard called out to her. I'm sorry, Richard, I should have told you, she confessed to him without looking in his direction. When did he? When Damon was 2, and before I found out I was pregnant with Lorelei. No. Lorelei screamed. You're lying. Dad would never. He coveted and respected the mate bond. He would never cheat on you. You're lying. You're a liar. Without saying a word, Torrance knelt in front of her daughter and pulled her turtleneck to the side. Lorelei took in a sharp breath. That can't be, Damon whispered. Torrance stood up and faced all of us while still pulling her turtleneck to the side. Torrance, when? Everett started to ask. Not long after he died, I'm assuming, she replied. I didn't feel the pain one would normally feel when their mate passes, but I did feel this start to disappear, she responded, referring to her smooth neckline. A mark can disappear? Xandra asked. Only under extreme circumstances, but it's very, very rare, Richard answered. Holy SHT, their mom was in a bondless bond. Mav Kellunk questioned, scratching the back of his head. But we never suspected anything. Dad was always with us. Damon exclaimed. He was only with us because his human lover died during childbirth, Torrance replied, making the room gasp once again. Wait, are you saying that we have a hybrid half-sibling out there somewhere? Lorelei questioned. No, the child died as well. It was premature and was more human than a werewolf. Since it was born after just 5 months in the womb, like a werewolf, the organs didn't fully develop. It died only 24 hours after being born. Your father was devastated. I had never seen him cry before. Ever. He didn't even cry when I rejected him for infidelity. He left to be with her when he found she was pregnant. He only came back to me because he found out I had Lorelei. What? Hold on, are you saying that Thornton didn't even know you were pregnant with Lorelei? Everett asked for clarification, and she shook her head. He found out from another pack member whom he was still in contact with that I had given birth out of wedlock. Thornton came back because the pup was a girl. Apparently, the child he lost was also a girl, and he felt that the moon goddess was giving him the daughter he thought he wouldn't have. Are you saying that he only came back for Lorelei? Damon exclaimed. At first, but, over time, he came to love you and became the father that I always hoped he would be. Unfortunately, our bond was never the same. It never came back, even though I took back the rejection. I suppose it was because he didn't come back for me. All of us were silent, and things had taken a really awkward turn. What should have been an easy vote to banish or kill Damon and Lorelai turned into a TV drama in the rec room. Is this where people normally say they wish they had popcorn? Xandra asked me. I turned to her in shock. What? I did everything I could to provide for my family, to give you two the best home you could possibly have, and yet, it all seems that it was for nothing. Because no matter what I say, you two will always put your father before me. You always have. What are you talking about? Lorelai spat. When's my birthday? Torrance grilled them. They looked at each other and didn't answer. What's my maiden name? What's my favorite color? How old am I? What's my favorite food? What's my favorite flower? She kept shooting off questions to them, but they couldn't answer a single one. I felt horrible for Torrance. I really did. As she was firing off these questions, I was mentally answering them about my mom. I wasn't the son of the year, but I knew my mom, at the very least. She was the one who carried me for 5 months and gave me life. I knew firsthand how hard it was to raise a child. After all, I have a son of my own. I even watched my sister raise her 3 pups. It was daunting, but it was so rewarding. Wow, what worthless kids, someone muttered. PST, Mav Kellank got my attention. He showed me his phone, and it looked like he had pulled up the pack files on all current pack members. My eyes widened at what I saw. No way, I said, and he just nodded. Now I felt really bad. What's going on? Brent asked. He, Xandra, Alexa, and Jay hovered over the phone and also saw what I just saw. They all gawked at me, and I could see the sympathy in all of their faces. Even Jay. What are we going to do? Xandra asked. I bit my bottom lip and thought about it. Torrance, I called out to her. Yes, Alpha, she turned to me. The pack members who witnessed their crimes will vote on their punishment. Either they will be banished, or they will be given the death sentence. If they're banished, it will be effective immediately. And if they're to be executed, she asked with tears in her eyes. I will stay their execution for 24 hours so that you can spend one final day with them, but that's only if you want to, I informed her. More tears welled in her eyes, and she nodded her head once. Griffin, do you know what you're doing? Richard asked me and I nodded my head. I showed him Mav Kellank's phone, and he, too, sympathized. He nodded his head. If you vote for Damon and Lorelai to be banished, raise your hands, I instructed the pack members. Not a single person moved. Banishing them is showing leniency they don't deserve. Yet, what's not to say they won't follow in their father's footsteps and go find Patterson as well to get back at us? We can't risk retaliation. Here. Okay, quiet please, I told them. All in favor of the death. I didn't even have to finish my statement before everyone's hands shot up in the air. You! Damon roared and shifted into his wolf, throwing Trent and the rest of the men, who were holding him down, off him. They were scattered across the room, and some had even landed on top of Richard and Everett. Women screamed and retreated while at the same time letting go of Lorelai. She, too, shifted into her wolf and wasted no time in lunging at Xandra and Alexa. I pushed Alexa towards Brent, and I grabbed Xandra and pulled her back to avoid the attack. Nova, Lorelai's wolf, crk'd Thornwood into the coffee table, and it shattered under her weight, impaling her with some glass shards. It was enough to injure her, but not enough to kill her. I placed Xandra behind me and shifted in havoc while Brent shifted into chaos and Mav into Arcos. An all-out war broke out in the rec room, and the pack members ran for their lives, knowing they were the targets because of how they voted. Damon got a hold of the older woman by the leg and pulled her back while chomping down on it. She screamed as he literally launched her across the room. Her body hit the wall at the wrong angle, breaking her neck and killing her instantly. You could hear a cry from inside the pack house. She was someone's mate. Lorelei got up from where she landed and had her sights on Xandra. Xandra didn't waste any time as she, too, shifted into Atlanta and stood her ground. She shifted faster than ever before, and she was ready for a fight. Atlanta was bigger than Nova but not by much. Havoc stood in front of Atlanta to protect her. Chaos was now in a standoff with Damon's wolf, whose name I can't remember. Alexa had also shifted back into Brooklyn, and I was surprised to see Jay had shifted into Zahara. Before Brent and Damon could even start their fight, a scruffy, cream-colored wolf jumped on Damon's back and bit into his shoulder. Damon wailed in pain and rolled over to crush the other wolf into the ground. He didn't kill him, but he knocked the wind out of him. Damon went to stomp on the cream-colored wolf, but Chaos tackled him, and they started to grapple. Last chance, Griffin. Leave that, and take me as your chosen. Stop this now, Lorelei. I'm trying to give you and your brother one last chance to be with your mother. We don't want it. She gave up the right to be our mother the moment she slapped us. How can you not see that she only cares about your well-being? Your father didn't. He came back for his own selfish reasons. He came back for me. What difference does it make? No, he didn't. He came back for himself. He abandoned you, Damon, and your mom for someone who wasn't his mate. You say that he coveted the mate bond, yet he didn't respect his own with the woman who brought you into this world on her own. Damon was already alive, and your dad had no problem leaving him behind for a woman who wasn't meant for him. My mother is lying. My father would never. He loved me and Damon. She's just jealous that he loved us more than her. How can you say that about your own mother? Stop chastising me, Griffin. It's beneath you. All of this is beneath you. She's beneath you. Take me. Choose me. Love me. Unlike your late father, Lorelei, I actually do covet the mate bond. I love Xandra. I even loved Tarine. She was my first mate. I loved her with every fiber of my being, but just like your father, she betrayed our bond to have a rank. And now, look where she is. She's 6 feet under, goddess only knows where. She left Killian without a mother because she was selfish. But you know what the irony of it all is? Had she stuck with me, she just might have become Luna. I don't care about Tarine. Or Xandra. I only care about myself. And I want you. Lorelei, stop this bullsh, and stand down. I don't want to hurt you. You can't hurt me. You love me. I know you do. There was no getting through to her. She was completely non-compos mentis, and it was going to be the death of her. She reared back on her hind legs, but her sights weren't on me, they were set on the person behind me, Xandra. I, Lorelei Ledger, hereby challenge the Luna for the right to mate with the Alpha, Griffin McEvoy. Lorelei had announced her challenge through the pack link, and the fighting came to a screeching halt. Paws were mid-air, and mouths were wide open with jaws hitting the floor, both human and wolf alike. This was not good. Chapter 61. Xandra's POV. Why did I get the feeling I knew she would pull a stupid stunt like that? Oh wait, that's right. Because I already saw it happen. Not only did I witness Damon confront Brent, but I also saw Lorelai challenge me. I knew there was nothing I could do to stop it since it was something that was supposed to happen. Or was it? Either way, I knew that whatever the reason, it should work out in my favor. After she announced her challenge through the pack link, I noticed the fighting had completely stopped. Everyone shifted back to their human form, at least, those of us who had shifted into our wolves. We all covered ourselves up as quickly as possible. Griffin and everyone else looked what's the word? Baffled, I think it is. I heard Griffin mumble to himself that this wasn't good, but I wasn't sure if he was talking about me or her. Was there some other hidden meaning behind his words? If I were a weak wolf, he might think that I would potentially lose to Lorelai, seeing as how I had no fighting experience. But, for one, he didn't look all that worried about it. I would think that her challenging me would be a cause for concern, but given how calm he looked right now, along with the way Richard and Everett were both lifting their eyebrows at Lorelai, something told me that I was going to be okay. Did she just challenge the Luna? One of the pack members asked. She did, and she linked the entire pack about it, another answered. Is she stupid? A different person questioned. She must be. Why else would she challenge the Luna? Someone else replied. Stop mumbling. If you have something to say, say it to my face. Lorelai screamed at the pack members after changing back to her human form, boiling with rage. Goddess, I'm glad the Alpha didn't take her as his chosen mate. Hearing her scream like that all the time would blow my eardrums sky high, someone pointed out as they covered their ears from Lorelai's screeching. You seriously need to quit screaming. We're not deaf, an older member flat out told her. Lorelai looked like she was about to scream again, but someone sobbing caught everyone's attention. Startled, we all turned to see where it was coming from and saw a pack member crying over the body of the elderly woman that Damon killed. Oh, goddess, Richard whispered as he went over to tend to the pack member. Out of instinct, the rest of us followed as well. He was cradling her and sobbing into her neck. Johnny, I'm so sorry, Richard tried to comfort him. Johnny said nothing and continued to sob over his dead mate. Seeing this really angered me, and I felt my skin burning. I don't know what came over me, but I stood and turned to face Damon. Without thinking, I punched him across the face with all of the force I had. I heard something crack, and he cried out in pain. You bits, you broke my jaw, he shouted at me the best that he could. You murdered his mate. You're a monster. She did nothing to you. I screamed at him, more like roared at him. I actually scared myself, hearing my voice get that loud. Nutting. She vowed to kill me, he shouted the best he could. Because you deserve to die. I snarled and punched him again. You call us weak and undeserving, yet you resort to attacking and killing innocent pack members that you and your sister called in here. I went to punch him again, but someone stopped me. I turned around to see Torrance. Luna, please, do not strike my son again, she begged. I clenched my fist and pulled my hand from her grip. I didn't punch him again, but I turned around and addressed Lorelai instead. If you want to challenge me, then so be. That won't be necessary. Everyone PP'd their heads towards the doorway as someone else entered the room. Jonah! Richard exclaimed and stood to his feet. What are you doing here, old friend? Well, it appears that the Luna of Blue Lake had a vision, and her first call was to me. Saren had a vision? I asked. Yes, young Luna. Your sister had a vision of you being attacked by a pack member. She informed me that this pack member had already struck you once in the past and that her brother was the one who attacked her in sleep while she was visiting here a few months ago. It appears that her vision did not indicate that a challenge had been made, he responded. Jonah, you didn't have to come all this way, Richard insisted. Well, it's a good thing that I did, Richard. Were you planning on stopping this challenge? Jonah asked him. I turned to face him, confused. Well, we have more pressing issues to deal with, unfortunately, Richard replied and nodded his head towards Johnny, who was still holding his dead mate. Who is responsible for this? Jonah demanded with a slight growl. Everyone stared at Damon on the ground, who was still holding his jaw in place after I had broken it. Was it warranted? No, everyone yelled at the same time. Elder Jonah, we had a pack vote to execute Damon and his sister because of their insubordination towards the ranked members, as well as physically attacking them. But, when the vote was made, they retaliated and started to attack pack members, Everett explained. It was in the middle of the attack that this young female challenged the Luna, he continued while pointing at Lorelei. I see. Well, again, it's a good thing that I showed up when I did. I was able to witness most of this event, and I will be making a decision on how to handle everything and everyone. Can he do that? Jay asked Mav Kellunk. He's an elder, sweetheart. Of course, he can, Mav answered her. Elder, she looked up at him. They're the big bosses of werewolves. Jonah is the head honcho or the boss above all of the big bosses. Jay just nodded her head. First off, I wanted to SQUKL Thornwood this ridiculous challenge made by her. Jonah announced right away while pointing at Lorelei. What? You can't. Silence, you impudent fool. Jonah roared. I jumped and clung to Griffin. Jay hid behind Mav Kellunk, and Alexa was holding onto Brent's arm. It's okay, don't be afraid. He's louder because he's an elder. Xandra, baby, you can let go now, Griffin whispered to me. I glanced down and saw that I dug my nails into his arm. I looked up, and tears immediately filled my eyes. Whoa, hey, don't cry. It's okay. It was a fear response, he reassured me and rubbed my back. As your fellow pack members have stated, you are as stupid as they come. You cannot challenge someone for their mate once they have already been marked. In addition, you cannot challenge to mate with someone who doesn't even want you. Jonah spoke harshly to her. And you piece of TRKL Thornwood. Jonah continued while looking down at Damon. Your past crime should have earned you the death penalty, however, Alpha Jasper spared your life out of the goodness of his heart, yet here you are, causing problems again. You murdered a pack member without justification, and in doing so, you have sealed your fate. You will be executed. Take him to the dungeons and arraign him. He will be executed tonight. Trent and the other guards standing by didn't even hesitate to grab Damon, kicking and screaming, and dragged him out of the room. No! Lorelei screamed. Goddess, will you quit screaming? Alexa shouted at her. Shut up before I make you shut up, she screamed at Alexa. Silence! Jonah roared at her again. You have no sense of respect for your ranked members. Your insubordination is more than enough cause to banish you from this pack. Jonah, the pack has voted to have her executed as well, Richard reminded him. Then execution it is. No. You can't do this to me. Griffin. Stop them. Her begging was cut off by Jonah hitting her across the back of the head. Thank you, the pack members praised him. Take this filth to join her brother. They will be executed together. Yes, sir. 2 of the male pack members picked her up and took her to the dungeons as well. After they were all gone, Jonah turned to the rest of us. I really hope this is not how the pack has been run since it was given to you lot, he said, eyeing Griffin and the others. Jonah, it's work in progress. We had a situation earlier this evening that caused some undue stress for us, and that appears to have contributed to the Ledger siblings' Elkale Thornwooding out, Richard answered. I heard what happened. Dead bodies falling out of thin air. I'm certain Jasper told you about this. No, actually, I didn't even know it happened to Blue Lake until young Luna Saren called to inform me of what was going to happen here. Wait, are you saying it happened somewhere else? Everett chimed in. Yes, it's happened to 4 other packs. Apparently, previously banished pack members had taken refuge with Patterson, and for one reason or another, he killed them and sent their bodies back to their packs. Why though? Brent questioned his motive. To send a message, Jonah replied. What kind of message? I asked. That I am not sure, young Luna, but we can't take it lightly. Whatever Kellen is planning, it's going to be big, and he's made this threat to all packs within the region. We must be vigilant and prepare. Prepare for what? Jay shyly asked. I'm sorry, who are you? Jonah, this is Xavier's daughter. The one who was kidnapped 20 years ago, Richard answered. Ah, young Jennifer. My sincere condolences on the loss of your family. Thank you. And to answer your question, prepare for a war that will be coming, and soon. Kellen Patterson wouldn't send the bodies of deceased pack members if he weren't planning on striking soon. Wait, that reminds me, Richard remembered suddenly. After this happened, I called Jasper, and he theorized that Kellen did this to force all of our hands. Force our hands to do what? Griffin wondered. Gather all of the alphas in one centralized location. He's trying to manipulate everything to go his way. He wants to force us to do what he wants by using fear and anger, Brent declared. Yes, it appears that way, Jonah agreed and scratched his chin. There has to be a way to take control of the situation without letting Kellen know we are onto him. Jasper has a plan, but I don't think you're going to be very happy about it. Alpha Jasper, you cannot be serious. Jonah shouted at the screen. After we had handled the situation with Lorelei and Damon, all of the ranked members and Jonah moved to the conference room to call Jasper and Saren. They had also gathered all of their ranked members along with several others from their pack. I couldn't be more serious. He wants to kill all of us, so why not let him think that he has? Jasper, let me get this straight. You want to call upon the Dark Witch, who helped you before, and have her create clones of all the alphas in the region? Griffin questioned. Yes. Luna Saren, do you agree with him? Jonah asked her. Yes, I do, Elder Jonah. I won't deny that his idea is crazy, but using a clone to trick the enemy worked for us before. But instead of just doing it, we're informing you guys, as well as the other alphas, to gather their thoughts on the matter. Svetlana will always be an ally to Blue Lake, regardless of whether she's a Dark Witch or not. And with the loss of our Light Witch, we need someone just as powerful as Olivia to help us. One who isn't afraid to bend the rules. What loss? I asked her. Olivia and William are gone, Saren told me with a sad expression. But we don't need them. We can do this on our own, with a little bit of help. But just as Jasper said, this is going to take everyone's cooperation and for everyone to be open-minded. You want us to work with the Dark Witch who tried to take my son because she thought he was of Beta blood? Griffin shouted. But she didn't. She agreed not to take him. Keaton replied. Only because he's mine and an Omega. But what's going to happen if she finds out that I'm an Alpha now, and my son is my successor? She already knows, and she doesn't give a Griffin, Kendrick insisted. What? She's known for some time. She doesn't care. Even though you're technically the Alpha now, Killian wasn't born with ranked blood. He's still useless to her, Saren added. You're positive? Yes, they all yelled at the same time. Where is this dark witch? Jonah asked. She's nearby, waiting for instruction, Jasper answered. How can we trust her? She's a dark witch. Mav Kellenk exclaimed. Have you not heard the saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend? Jasper asked him. Svetlana is a dark witch. We have already established that. But she has sworn her alliance to Saren. So even if she backstabs someone else, she won't betray Saren. She knows that Saren could kill her without even blinking if she did. And what does she need from us? Jonah asked. DNA. A hair sample or a drop of blood? Jonah looked at Richard, who shook his head. Jonah smiled and then looked at Griffin. Sir, why are you looking at me? Griffin, you're the current Alpha. It's going to be your DNA that will be used. So, ultimately, it's your decision to make, Richard told him. But I pulled on his arm to get his attention. He looked over at me. Griffin, I may not know everything that has happened with this dark witch because I wasn't around then, but I do know that I trust Jasper and Saren. Everything that they've done for us has been nothing but supportive. I trust that this plan is going to work. Did you see something? He asked me. No. Then how do you know? Because I have faith that my mother wouldn't have brought us together if we weren't meant to be together for the rest of our lives. But we don't know how long that is. I do, I reassured him with a smile. He put his forehead against mine and took a deep breath. After a minute or so, he nodded his head and looked back at everyone. All right. I'm in. Let's do this, Jasper. Perfect. I've already spoken to the other Alphas who received gifts from Kellen. They're in too. What about the rest of us? Brent asked. As of right now, our assumption is that Kellen's primary targets are the Alphas. Even though Saren's vision a few months ago showed us otherwise. We think his plan is to kill all Alphas to render the packs unstable so that he can take over. Kellen may only be a mid-level Alpha, but he is still stronger than high-level Betas, and he knows that, Jasper responded. So, we make clones of the Alphas. What do the Betas do in the meantime? Everett asked. You're going to go about your lives as if nothing is different. Once Svetlana has created the clones, we will need all Alphas to go into hiding. Your clones will have most of your memories, so they won't seem out of the ordinary. What about me? And the other Lunas? I asked. You don't expect me to sleep with a fake, do you? You're going to have to, Saren answered. My jaw dropped and hit the table. Don't worry, little sis, the bond will still be there, and it won't feel any different. Trust me, I know, Jasper tried to comfort me. But isn't that like cheating? Alexa asked. No, because the clone is being created directly from Griffin's DNA. The mate bond might seem a little weaker than normal, but it's not cheating because the clone is a carbon copy of the real Griffin. That goes for any of the Alphas. Even if you were to kiss or have sex with the clone, it's not cheating, Xandra, Saren explained to me. When Jasper made out with my clone, I didn't feel anything. That's how I figured out what she was. I thought she was some fake just trying to take my place, but she was an exact replica of my DNA, so there was technically no betrayal. That's actually how we were able to defeat the enemy back then. And that's how we're going to do it now. I pouted but nodded my head. So, just so we're clear on this, Griffin is going to go into hiding after he gives his DNA to the witch along with the other alphas, which I'm assuming includes Jasper. Brent asked. They nodded their heads. Okay, then the clones will show up to the pack, we act as if nothing is different, then all of the alphas agree to an alpha meeting. They nodded again. Cool, so, where's this meeting supposed to take place? That hasn't been determined yet, but it will be whenever the clone alphas have a conference call to determine it. Once we get a location, we will make sure that the news reaches Kellen or whoever his minions are, so they can tell him directly. What minions? He's probably killed all of them. Mav Kellen shouted. Doubtful, but we will make sure he finds out one way or another. Just make sure that only those you trust with your lives know about what's going on. If the wrong person finds out, this could blow the entire operation, Jasper said firmly. Don't worry, everyone in this room is trustworthy. After the SHT we just went through today, I don't know who else to trust, Griffin replied as he gripped my hand. I went to squeeze his back, but I suddenly found myself in the middle of nowhere. I looked around and saw nothing that I recognized. Griffin! I called out. Xandra, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be hiding. Griffin told me, but this wasn't my Griffin. This Griffin was different, but yet, still the same? Wait, could this be the clone? I was worried about. SHHH, he shushed me and pulled me aside. Xandra, I get that you're worried about Saren and her pup, but you have to stay hidden. Nicole and Tessa are looking for you and Alexa. Why? What do you mean why? They're trying to kill you. Tessa doesn't want little sisters, let alone ones that are related to Saren. And Nicole, well, it's obvious why she wants you dead. I started to respond when I found myself back in my chair next to Griffin. Xandra, where did you go just now? Griffin asked. My stars, what just happened? Jonah reacted, totally confused. Xandra, what did you see? Saren asked me. My mouth just hung open, and I didn't know how to answer her. I was still trying to figure it out myself. Xandra. I circled my eyes to everyone. I think we're in trouble. Chapter 62. Saren's POV. There was no time to feel out of sorts anymore, even if my life seemed to be spiraling out of control. I had so much on my plate, and everything just kept getting more and more complicated. I didn't even get a chance to process what happened today before my mind was flooded with visions of Lorelai and Xandra in a fight. I knew I needed to get there, but without Olivia, there was no one to transport us there in time. I called the only person I knew that was even remotely close to Golden Moon Elder Jonah. With Richard's impending coronation to become an elder, Jonah had mentioned in passing that he would be staying nearby, so I quickly called him to let him know about my premonition. Because of Xandra's lack of training, I knew she wouldn't stand a chance, not when it came to Lorelai's ridiculous obsession for Griffin. I also made sure to let him know about the dead bodies that we were recently gifted by Kellen. He seemed overwhelmed when I mentioned that part, and he told me that we weren't the first pack to tell him of such events. Apparently, we were the fifth pack in the last few hours to notify him of what had happened. It was then I knew that Kellen wasn't just threatening us or Golden Moon, he was threatening all of us. It wasn't long before Jasper told me he received a conference call request from Jonah at Golden Moon, most likely to discuss our plan to deal with Kellen. Still, a sense of relief came over me as soon as I saw Alexa and Xandra in the background with everyone else. I was really surprised to see Jennifer there too. She looked so much healthier and seemed to be taken with Mav Kellunk, even though it was obvious they hadn't marked or mated with each other yet. I could tell by the way she stayed close to him that she was starting to warm up to him. They would make beautiful pups in the future. I was amazed at how quickly everyone got on board with Jasper's crazy idea. I honestly thought it would take a lot more to persuade Jonah to go along with our plan to use a dark witch to create clones of all the alphas. It definitely took some convincing on Jasper's part to get me to agree to it. After the whole situation that happened with my clone, just hearing the word made me cringe. I thought he had lost his mind and gone mad, but he has never been more certain about a plan than he was with this one. I had asked all of the same questions that Xandra and everyone else did, and I gave them the same answers that Jasper had given me since they were the most logical and to the point. What threw me off completely, though, was seeing Xandra up and vanish into thin air mid-conversation. "Xandra!" Griffin shouted and bolted to his feet when she disappeared. "Good goddess, what happened to her?" Jonah asked, also standing to his feet. "You don't think?" I wondered, looking at Jasper. He just shrugged his shoulders. Knowing that the girl's powers were only going to get more powerful, I had the inkling that Xandra just transported herself into the future or, in the words of William, did a time skip. About 2 minutes later, she reappeared in her chair as if nothing had happened. Griffin and everyone else asked her if she was okay and where she had gone, but I needed to know what she saw. Because she wasn't in front of me, I couldn't read her mind. "Xandra, what did you see?" She didn't answer and kept looking around the room as if she was trying to make sense of what just happened. "Xandra!" I shouted at her. I think we're in trouble," she finally responded. "What do you mean?" Griffin asked. Xandra was about to answer, but then I remembered something that William told us. "Wait!" I hollered, catching everyone's attention. "Remember what William said. You're not allowed to tell anyone what you saw. You didn't just see the future, Xandra, you went to it. Which means whatever you just lived through is supposed to happen." "But Saren," she protested. I cut her off. "No. You keep what you saw to yourself. You were supposed to see what happened for a reason. You can't tell a soul, not even me or Griffin. No one can know what you saw," I told her sternly. She opened her mouth to argue back, but I gave her the look and she reluctantly nodded her head. "Luna Saren, pray tell us, what is going on here?" Jonah demanded. "Jonah, you already know who the girls are and who I am. Like me, the girls have powers. Their powers are two sides of the same coin. In Xandra's case, she can do what is known as time skipping," I answered him. "Time skipping?" "Yes. She can jump to the future, not very far from what I can tell right now. But it's not the same as my ability where I have premonitions of events to stop or prepare for them. She is able to see or visit actual events in the future that have already happened, meaning she is going to the future. Alexa, on the other hand, can send people to the past. Those who need answers or need to learn the truth about an event. That's what she did to the pack members." Everett exclaimed. "You what?" I asked Alexa upon hearing this. "You were able to send your pack members to the past, willingly." "Yeah, but it was only like 5 minutes in the past." "No, you sent some people further," Brent told her. "I did." "Yeah, didn't you hear the older guy's reaction? He told us he actually saw what Damon did to Saren with Sam in the bed." Oh, I didn't know I sent someone that far back. She moved her head to the side. Remember what William said about your powers, Alexa, you send people back to where they need answers. That pack member must have been curious about exactly what Damon did to me, I replied. Jasper growled next to me. I looked at him and put my hand on his GH to calm him down. Oh yeah, that reminds me, Griffin interrupted. Damon and Lorelei are to be executed tonight. Tonight? I asked, looking at the wall clock. Griffin, it's almost 10 in the evening. I won't postpone their death sentences, not after the SHT they tried to pull on us a little while ago. They've been given enough leniency. Knowing that their father was one of the moles in our pack, we can't afford to let them escape and go to Kellen either, he replied. I'm glad you brought that up, Griffin, Richard mentioned. Why did you want to give them the rest of the night to spend with Torrance? Oh, that. Well, I thought it would be nice for Torrance to spend her kids' final hours with them before her birthday ended. Birthday? Richard and Everett both ululated. Yeah, when I heard her firing off questions to them, the first one she had asked was when her birthday was. I got the feeling that she didn't just throw that question out for no reason, so I pulled up her pack member file, and sure enough, today is her birthday. Her 50th to be exact, Mav Kellenk explained. My stars, that poor woman. First, her mate's remains fall from the sky, and now both of her pups are to be executed, Jonah gasped while shaking his head. Wait, then what was my premonition about? Why did I see Lorelei and Xandra fighting? I asked the room. Lorelei challenged Xandra for the right to mate with Griffin, Alexa answered. What? Is she stupid? She can't challenge to mate with someone who is already marked. Let alone for someone who doesn't even want her. I exclaimed. That's what Jonah said, they all wailed in unison. I am so elated to see that the moon goddess has blessed both of your packs with such powerful female leaders. I always knew that in due time, females not just males would lead our kind. Female alphas. Lunas by the mate. Bond, but alphas by blood. How glorious! Jonah sang his praises while raising his arms up to the sky. Yes, I have to agree with Jonah. Times are changing, and it appears that female alphas are more prominent in packs now. Blue Lake has Saren, and our pack has Xandra and Alexa. Let's not forget about Jennifer too. I can only imagine what other packs will eventually receive over time. But before we celebrate the dawning of a new era, we need to remove the thorn in all of our sides, Richard stated with irritation. We all nodded. I'll make the call to Svetlana. We will have her travel to each pack, one by one, to collect the DNA to create the clones. After you've given her the DNA, Griffin, you will need to go into hiding, Jasper instructed. Wait, where are we all supposed to meet? I'm assuming that all of us, and by us, I mean the alphas, will meet while in hiding. Griffin asked. We will, but not right away. Our clones will need time to come into their roles once they replace us in our packs. We have to move fast, but we can't be too hasty. Rushing this could cause unnecessary mistakes that we can't afford, Jasper replied. Understood. I just hope you're right about all of this, Jasper. Trust me, I hope so too. As soon as we ended the call, we all slumped into our chairs. Everyone else in the room with us was staring daggers at Jasper. What? Clones? Again? Milan yelled. You didn't mention any of this to us before calling us in here. Melody accused. There was no time. The idea came to me suddenly, and the only person I needed on board with me first was Saren. Once I got her to agree, I called every single alpha in the region and got their okays as well. Then Saren told me she had a vision about a cat fight at Golden Moon. There was literally no time to try to convince the rest of you. Okay, fine, then how about explaining to us why Saren stopped Xandra from telling us what she saw in the future? Kendrick demanded. It's like I told Xandra, she's not permitted to tell us because the events she witnesses have already happened. She is literally traveling to the future. She can't reveal anything because we cannot risk changing or destroying the timeline that we're already in. The same way that changing the past could change our present, I answered. What? That's not how time travel works, he argued. Have you guys not seen Avengers: Endgame? They even explain how it works in the movie. Kendrick, this isn't a movie. Milan snapped at him. And besides, William has been around for thousands of years. If he says the girls aren't supposed to change anything about the past or future, then we have to believe that he knows what he's talking about. He wouldn't have left Saren practically in charge of everything if he didn't trust her to obey the rules. I'm not in charge, I retorted. You basically are. I am not. Saren, come on, you're literally the most powerful one in here. I mean, hell, you're also the most highly ranked. Jasper may be the alpha, but you're the primordial. You literally have rank over him, Melody mocked. Jasper gave her an annoyed expression, but when he turned to face me, his expression was filled with pride. Wait, why do you look proud? I questioned. Because I am, dearest. I mean, not many male werewolves can say that their mate is a total bada.ss and one of the most, if not the most, powerful wolf in existence. He gave me lovey-dovey eyes and I knew for a fact that he was aroused. Why was he always so horny these days? Alright, cool. If that's all, then I need to get my kids from my mom before she fattens them up too much, Milan said while standing up. Jason didn't say a word but followed her out. Everyone else left, one by one, and soon, it was just me and Jasper in the conference room. When we were officially alone, I noticed that Jasper's body language had changed. What's wrong? I asked him. Xandra's little trip to the future has me worried. Something happens in the future, and I can't help but think that it has to do with you, he answered. Why would you think that? The way she looked at you when you stopped her from telling you what she saw. Her eyes held nothing but worry, for you. I'm sure you misinterpreted what you saw, Jasper. And even if she was worried about me, I can take care of myself. You should know that better than anyone. I know you can, but it's not just you that I'm worried about, Tink. You're pregnant and still very early into the pregnancy, I might add. You are at your most vulnerable state right now. Soon, you won't be able to shift. I don't know what using your powers during pregnancy will do to you, but I can't risk you becoming overly stressed. It's not good for you or the pup. I finally understood why Jasper was so worried. He didn't want to miss out on another pregnancy. I still felt awful that he didn't experience everything when I was pregnant with Sam, and I already knew he had so many regrets from that time. Jasper, I know that our first pregnancy wasn't ideal, but this one will be different. No one is here to with our minds or our marks. Yes, there is a lot going on, but nothing like what happened back then. You're not going to lose us, any of us, I reassured him as I placed his hand on my stomach. I wish Alexa could send me back in time, so I can see exactly what Layla had done to me. Why? So you can torture yourself. I don't know, he sighed. I cupped his face and made him look at me. His beautiful teal eyes held so much pain and regret about the past, and I wished I could make him see how much I love him and that I've forgiven him for everything. But it seemed as if he had yet to forgive himself. "What's really bothering you, Jasper?" "Sometimes I wish I could go back and keep myself from leaving the house. To stop me from going to work. Then I never would have left the office late, and I never would have stuck in that damn blizzard. She and Svetlana wouldn't have run me off the road, and they never would have suppressed my memories. I never would have hurt you. You never would have left. You never would have rejected me. You don't know that. It's like William said, changing the past wouldn't necessarily change the future for the better. And everything happens for a reason. I mean, look what happened with me and Diana. Fate definitely had plans for the two of us. Even though I can't deny that what happened to us didn't in the end, it worked out the way it was supposed to. How can you say that? Our bond was broken ever since then, and we were both so busy with other that we didn't even realize it. I mean, I hate to admit that Dorian was right. I was so inged up in the head and only cared about everything else around us when I should have prioritized you and Sam from the get-go. Again, maybe that's how it was supposed to play out. You called Dorian for help because of my sisters, who we didn't even know were my sisters at the time. But not only did he help us with that, but he also helped us find our bond. He helped us realize what we did wrong, and we learned from it. We're not perfect, Jasper, we never will be. Just like Dorian and Allie aren't perfect. But they trust each other wholeheartedly and believe in their bond. That's easier for them. Their bond was strong from the beginning, Jasper grumbled. No, it wasn't. How do you know? He asked. I quirked a brow at him. Wait, did you read their minds? I read her mind. Saran. What? I wanted to get an understanding of how someone who was once human could be so powerful. I'm a primordial, and she almost seemed to be more powerful than me. That's not possible. But it felt like it. So, I did a little mind reading, and I found that everything she did or said had one common denominator behind them. What? Dorian, and the fact that he didn't give up on her, even when she gave up on him at one point. Whoa, what? He questioned in dismay. I just nodded my head and followed up with an explanation of what Allie kept hidden behind all of her walls. Adding that to what Selene told me about Allie needing guidance, everything about her really started to make sense. I had no clue what was going on with them during these last few months, but I'm sure it was a lot knowing what I know. One thing I did know for sure though was that I think I figured out a way to help Allie heal from her past. I just hoped that she would be open to the idea, assuming that they've taken care of everything they've needed to take care of. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.